One of these men is a highly respected New York attorney, Lucas A. Ferrara. The other is a self-proclaimed man of the people, known as Mert Roberts. Their aim is to discuss the hottest issues impacting our city, state, and nation. Fasten your seatbelts. Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live, starts now on AM 970. The Answer.
To talk about the French fiasco, otherwise known as the 2024 Olympics that were just held in Paris. But I was told by Alex, our engineer, that we have Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas live as its first caller. This is history in the making. And who do we have on the line?
We have Christina.
Christina. Do I happen to know you?
I think so.
Are you the same Christina that used to be the manager of a certain restaurant in Manhattan?
Yes, just the most popular one at the time.
And are we allowed to mention it, or would you rather not?
I think so. I think it's fine.
The Palm restaurant. And do you want to tell our listeners, give them who happened to be on the wall in that restaurant?
Lucas Ferrara, local celebrity.
Christina was very, very nice. And you know what's funny? Tell them the secret about my diet, though, when I came to your place.
You wouldn't eat any of the food. It was actually quite insulting.
I'm not a steak person. That's the hilarious part of the whole thing. But
no, you had red wine soup all the time.
Yeah, I would go with guests or clients, and of course they would eat meat. I'm not really particularly a meat lover, but the Palm in Manhattan was the premier place for steaks. What have you been doing, Christina? Do you have any books? Are you selling any books?
No.
Are you selling any books? Are you opening any restaurants? This is your opportunity. This is your opportunity to shine.
Well, I may have something in the works restaurant-wise. It's still early on, but I have someone who I used to work with, not at the Palm, but when we worked at Tavern on the Green about 25 years ago. He wants to open a restaurant with me, so it's in the beginning stages. But something exciting might happen, and it might happen in Florida.
Well, now, if that should happen, Christina, you promise to give us an exclusive. We'll have you back on the show, and we'll talk about your new restaurant. What do you think about that?
I think that's fantastic. You could give us a good review.
Well, I don't know about that. But
you'd have to order something first, but, baby steps.
Oh, my God. Christina's tough, boy. She's really tough. Thank you, Christina, so much for joining the program. Because you're our first guest, we have a special gift for you. So make sure to give Alex your contact information, and I'm going to send you a special thank you. Christina, thanks so much for calling our program. Ladies and gentlemen, our first caller. Thank you, Christina.
You're welcome.
No, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but that sounded like it was a setup to make you sound good. I mean, that was all compliments for you, Lucas. So, you sure that wasn't prearranged?
No, it was not. It was not. You know what? People can call. See, it's this negativity that Elizabeth was talking about. She spontaneously called and wanted to express support for the program, and I thought that was very, very nice. But let's get back to the program. I wanted to talk about the public relations disaster that was the French Olympics. Look, from the very beginning, and I know we talked about this before, it was plagued with problems, okay? The opening ceremonies. Look, when they raised the Olympic flag upside down, that may have been an omen that there were troubles ahead, right? The angels were crying because it was raining, and the flag upside down was like a distress signal that things were going to be off. And they sure were. We talked about that Last Supper tableau. I know that Mert feels that it's based on a different painting, and we're not going back. But it sure looked like it was based on the Last Supper to me.
Well, how are you going to bring it up? You said we're not going to go back.
I'm trying to give context. And there were quite a few other mishaps along the way, okay? But here are a few. Ready? The Olympic Village was constructed in a quote-unquote environmentally friendly design. And you know what that meant? That meant no air conditioning. In the middle of summer in France, there was no air conditioning for the athletes. And then, of course, there happened to be a heat wave. Now, the mayor of Paris, her name is Anne Hidalgo, who headed the Olympics infrastructure group, ruled out air conditions. She said she was concerned about the environment. This is her quote. Ready? "I have a lot of respect for the comfort of athletes, but I think a lot more about the survival of humanity." Oh, please. The conditions at the Olympic Village were so intolerable that many national delegations went out and bought their own units. I think I read somewhere they were like $2,000 a piece. The Australian team spent $100,000 just on air conditions alone, okay? And interestingly, because many of the delegations had to pay for their own units, not all the countries had air conditioning. Some countries couldn't afford it. How egalitarian is that, France? Then France spent over $1 billion. They spent $1 billion to clean the Seine River, where the water and all the competitions were taking place. But guess what? The heavy rains ended up causing water to be filled with sewage and other yucky stuff. So events like the triathlon, which had a swimming component, had to be postponed several times because of the health threats posed to the athletes, including E. coli. So the athletes had to get hepatitis jabs and be on antibiotics before they can jump in. You're worried about humanity, but apparently not, because you're exposing human beings to that nonsense. And last but not least, for the first time, break dancing was included as a optional temporary sport. I say optional because it's not going to be in L.A. in 4 years, a couple of years. Rachel Gunn, Gunn, an Australian competitor who went by the name of Ray Gunn, pulled off what I thought were a bunch of extremely awkward, mind-numbingly poor performances at the event. Her dance moves were so bad, she scored 0. 0. She was judged on creativity, personality, technique, variety, performance, musicality, and she couldn't get a single judge to give her a single vote in any one of those categories. Not a one. 0. Zilch. Nada. Her performance was called hilariously ridiculous by critics. Ironically, I guess that's one way to describe the 2024 Olympics. Okay, so maybe we'll drop the word hilariously. It was just plain ridiculous. Mert, breakdancing, what did you think of Ray Gunn? Beautiful or what?
Listen, I know you must have been a straight A student, because the preparation that goes into these soliloquies is just amazing, because I admire the depth of information. But what I am starting to notice is, I think I have a good feeling you're not a sports guy, because if you were a sports guy, you wouldn't be saying this about the Olympics, because the Olympics had a lot of moments that overshadowed all the negativity. There was a lot of moments that made this one of the greatest Olympics of all time, in my opinion. You had the men's basketball
that got arrested for buying cocaine, or the other
nobody cares about that.
No, but Lucas, I agree with Mert on this. Mert's on the money with this one.
Yeah. You're not an athletic guy. You don't like sports. I can hear that, because if you love sports, you would be talking about the USA team, the basketball team. You'd be talking about the track events. You'd be talking about France and them competing. Like, you would be talking about the actual events, but you're talking about everything else besides the sports. You sound like my girlfriend when she's talking about football. She's more interested in Taylor Swift.
Oh my
God!
She's
more interested in Taylor Swift and who she's dating on the football field than the actual football game.
Well, you know what, Mert? I have news for you. This ain't ESPN, okay? This ain't the sports network. We're here to talk about issues, okay? America did wonderfully. I get it. But I thought that the contrast of the hypocrisy, worried about humanity, but jump in water that's full of E. coli. Yeah, a heat wave. No air conditioning for you. They're like air conditioning Nazis. No air conditioning for you because they're worried about the environment. Really, I'm trying to point out the hypocrisy of it.
I get what you're trying to do, and I know this isn't ESPN, but this is not about the actual sports per se. It's about the moments and the display of a great American athletes and the great display of our greatest athletes in the world on display. So it goes beyond ESPN, especially with the United States. We dominated the medal count. That just goes to show how superior we are when it comes to everything, sports, politics, everything. And I get what you're doing. You're focusing on everything else because you're not a sports guy, and I understand that. But
my God,
most
he's
people
attacking me again.
Most people could care less about the athletes having air conditioning because it's not held in America. When it's over here in America, they'll have AC. I guarantee you they'll have AC when it comes over here to America. But what they do in France, hey, that's on them. However France wants to handle the Olympics, that's on them because I'm not thinking about France after the Olympics has left. You are, but I'm not. So I could care less how the athletes had to go out and purchase air conditioning units. Hey, they're athletes. They should be tough. They don't need air conditioning, in my opinion. Just be tough over there. You train all 4 years for this moment, and you're gonna let some AC bother you. I don't think so. I think they were ready to compete. If they didn't have AC, if they had AC, regardless. So I think all these complaints that you have, they're valid, but nobody cares. Nobody cares because it's all about the athletic competition and the events. And if you've seen the joy on people's faces when the track team won that event, how many people were just jumping for joy, or when Steph Curry made the miraculous comeback against Serbia to save the United States team from going down and playing for the bronze, you would overlook all that other stuff, and you would be happy that we overcame. And it was just a bunch of great moments at the Olympics. And I can't believe that you're focusing on these things that are, I admit, they're negative. You shouldn't have swimmers swimming in dirty water. I admit that.
It's more than dirty. It's full of you-know-what. Look, and interestingly enough, our next guest, Jay Weinstein, is a chef and has been cooking for the last 25 years. And I don't know if you read this, Mert, but apparently they ran out of meat and eggs, okay? So, of irony of all ironies, France, Paris, which is known for food, right? They didn't have enough meat and eggs for the athletes. That I think, the British had to bring in their own cook and food supplies. You got to be kidding me. So, yeah, I understand the athletic events and the competition, all beautiful things, but the event organizers were creepy. They're just creepy, and they're a bunch of hypocrites. Not enough food. People have to bring their own AC. I don't know. Something doesn't.
Well, I've heard something about in Europe they don't really like air conditioning. I've heard people say that, so that you should expect stuff like that. But
okay, and they don't like meat and eggs. I mean, look, if you look at the totality, I thought the opening ceremonies were bizarre, by the way, with that headless. I think it was Marie Antoinette, the headless lady, and blood coming out of like those red streamers. It was like blood pouring out. It was weird. It was just weird to me.
I mean, it's art. I thought you would appreciate art. You strike me as an artistic guy. You like art.
Oh,
you
my
sound
God,
very
now it's
sophisticated.
calling me artsy. You were calling me nerdy just a few minutes ago. Now you
No.
artsy.
I said you don't like sports. There's a lot of manly men who don't like sports. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, so that makes my commentary less meaningful. Is that what you're saying?
No. I'm saying I would value your commentary when it comes to this because I would think that you would appreciate art because you sound like an artsy guy. That's all I'm saying. I thought
starting off with a headless mannequin, with this woman that had no head, and the face is like singing from her tummy. You know, the corpse was holding the head in her hands, and this head, which was like positioned in the middle of her tummy, is singing. It was bizarre. So
let me ask you a question. When you travel, do you go to the resorts and stay, or do you actually experience the culture? How do you?
Well, it
travel?
depends. It depends. For example, in India, you're not going to find a lot of Airbnbs, although that may have changed the last couple of years.
Right.
So you have no choice but to stay at hotels, really. But a lot of places like Japan, I've stayed at Airbnbs, and they're beautiful. Like in Tokyo, go to Tokyo, stay at an Airbnb. It's fascinating. It's amazing. It all depends. In Africa, when I went on a safari, you don't have much choice, right? You have to stay at the lodge. So it all depends on where you are.
Yeah, and the reason I asked you that is because if you were to go to France, and this is the French who put this not halftime, but this Olympic ceremony on. If you were to ask the French what they thought of this, I think that the French would say, hey, we recognize everything. This is part of our culture. We enjoy this. We like this. This is our sensibilities. This is something that we enjoy. So I think since it's a regional thing in terms of we're France, we're putting this ceremony together, we're going to do something the way the French like it. Don't you understand why it wouldn't make sense, or why it wouldn't necessarily appeal to the American audience, and it would probably appeal more to the European, French-minded people instead of us? Don't you get that?
Well, Australia didn't appreciate it, and a lot of other countries didn't appreciate it either. So I get what you're saying, but for France to impose its, values on others is sort of insensitive, and it's almost suggests intolerance, because they don't like air conditioning means you can't have air conditioning. These are for athletes that have to sleep. These are for athletes that have to eat, and you don't have meat and eggs for athletes. Something is wrong.
Well, they always say this: if everybody has to go through the same thing, then it's all fair. If everybody has to deal with the same thing, it's all fair. Now, if they were giving the French athletes air conditioning and eggs and meat, then that'd be different. But if every athlete had to go through the same thing, then it's all fair.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, it may be fair, but it doesn't make it right. You know what I mean? Alex, come on, you've been uncharacteristic.
I've been letting you guys talk about this. All I know is maybe they had a break dance for their meat and eggs. That's all I'm going to say. Because, that sport, why that even is a sport over baseball, that's another debate for another day. I actually think that if they were in America, the folks who, want the Green New Deal and all that, the climate change folks would want athletes to not have air conditioners here either. I believe that would be a controversy, that they wouldn't have air conditioning in America.
I didn't think of that. That's a good point. So there are probably a lot of people who actually agree with that. The emissions are down. See, that's a good point you just made there, Alex.
But I think it's a negative in that, these athletes should not be deprived of air conditioners or have to get it on their own. That's just stupid.
It's absurd. And not having meat and eggs, that's also absurd. There are problems. There were also had protesters cutting the rail lines down, and I think they were cutting the power down. I mean, look, the Olympics happen when France is not happy. The whole country is not happy with its government. So that's like a flashback to when they were not happy with Rio back in 2014 either. The citizens, I meant. But
no one's going to ever be happy, because somebody's always going to find something to trash anything. So I'm not surprised what's going on here. But I thought the Olympics was an amazing display of our best athletes in their shining moments. There was a bunch of tremendous events, and I didn't have for 1 second time to go back and think about all the negativity once the Olympics got into full swing. Once the actual competitions started to take place, I didn't have time to go back and think about all this stuff. So the fact that Lucas is able to, that just says certain things to me. I'm not making fun of you. I'm just saying it just says certain
things. Now, Mert, what I hear is you can
sports.
survive without air conditioning then, right? In 100-degree heat, you don't have it on?
That's funny, Alex. Call him out on it. Call him out on it.
That's not Africa, it's France. It's France, it's not Africa. It's not 100
His
degrees.
question was, can you do without air conditioning, Mert?
Yeah, in France I could. Yeah, sure. Why not? Why not?
Oh, boy. My friends, we're rapidly approaching a break. And when we come back, we're going to be chatting with Chef Jay Weinstein, who has more than 25 years of cooking and writing experience. He has a culinary arts education from CIA and a journalist degree from NYU. We're going to be talking to him about sustainable cooking practices and the plant-based curriculum at the Institute of Culinary Education.
Greetings, friends. Sebastian Gorka here. You've probably been hearing me talk about Y-Refi for some time now. And yes, many of my colleagues do as well. What makes Y-Refi so different from other investments? Let's quickly break it down. Y-Refi offers a secure, collateralized portfolio with a strong fixed rate of return up to 10.25%. There is no attack on your principal if you ever need your money back, and you're in control. You can let your investment compound daily or take income, whatever you choose. There are absolutely no fees, and an investment in Y-Refi is an investment in America's future. Simply call 888-Y-REFI-24. That's 888-Y-REFI-24. And when you call, you will not get a sales pitch. Just the info you need to see if Y-Refi is a better investment option for you. Or log on to investYrefi.com. That's invest, the letter Y, then refi.com. And make sure you tell them Dr. Gorka sent you.
When students struggle in school because they are hungry
or fall behind because they lack school supplies or clean clothing,
being greeted at the start of every school day by the smile of a caring adult can make all the difference.
Especially someone from the community.
Someone who knows firsthand the obstacles students might be facing
and what it will take to help them thrive.
At Communities in Schools, our site coordinators surround students with a community of support and remain by their side
to ensure that they have everything they need to engage in learning
and succeed in school and in life.
Access to technology, learning materials,
and even one-to-one mentor support.
We are there for them all day, every day. This is what Communities in Schools is all about.
Going all in for kids, in schools, in communities, and beyond.
To learn more, visit communitiesinschools.org. That's communitiesinschools.org.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
You know, I didn't know that Alex hated me till that last segment ended so abruptly, because I was talking about my friend Chef Jay Weinstein, who has more than 25 years of cooking and writing experience, and I was telling the listeners about his qualifications, and Alex turns me off. I don't believe it. Well, what I was saying before Alex rudely interrupted me was that Jay has a culinary arts education from CIA, a journalism degree from NYU. He's worked in prominent kitchens in Boston and New York, including Le Bernardin, Orso, which I've been to, and the Four Seasons Hotel, and has authored 4 cookbooks. I love when Jay comes out with a cookbook. He'll be talking about sustainable cooking practices and the plant-based curriculum at the Institute of Culinary Education, the #1 ranked culinary school in the country. Jay, what an honor to have you on the program today. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Lucas. It's great to be here, and it's great to speak with you too, Mert and Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you. You are too kind. You are too kind. You know, we were talking about the Olympics. I'm going off message here. We were talking about the Olympics, and one of the problems that arose is that they ran out of meat and eggs. And according to one of the news stories that I read, I didn't mention this earlier because I didn't independently check it out, that was part of the Olympic Committee's plan to force a plant-based diet on the athletes. Now, I know this is part of your curriculum. I have nothing against a plant-based diet, not at all. But do you think, what's going on here? What is this direction going into a plant-based
if what you're saying really was what transpired, then it's insidious. It's not right to suddenly shift people's diet without their knowledge and then leave them surprised at one of the most pivotal moments of their lives. I would feel equally that it was unfair if they were plant-based diet observers and all of a sudden they ran out of vegetables and they were handed steaks and pork chops and said, okay, well, this is what you're eating. It is wrong to pull a bait and switch.
Yeah, I thought that, but again, I didn't verify that. That was just based on one of the reports. But tell us about, first of all, what, if I may, I hope this is not too personal, what brought you into cooking? Why become a chef? What drew you?
I was a dishwasher at a restaurant in my hometown when I was a teenager, and the cook taught me dishes from the menu in return for favors like peeling potatoes or nipping the ends off green beans. Like, that chef recognized that I found it fascinating what he was creating, and he said, oh, I can see, I'll share a little something with you if you share some of your extra time with me. And once I learned how to cook and I was bringing things home, I got such positive feedback that it was just a positive feedback loop. It just made me more interested in it.
So it brings you joy? Is it the creation? What about it brings you happiness, if I may ask? I know this is personal, but I'm just curious how people find their calling.
Look, it is one of the great joys to be in this food world, to feel the textures of the food as it's coming into the dish that you want it to be, the aromas, the sounds of things sizzling and crackling. I mean, it's just a sensory pleasure to be a cook. So from the time that I began to do it to today, I have always felt a real privilege being part of the food world. And I, hope that my students get the same joy.
Now, can I ask you a question about cooking? How do you deal, can you cook stuff and enjoy cooking stuff that you don't actually like to eat?
That's a good
I always
question.
thought about that.
That's a good question.
Yeah, you can, because if you know what it's supposed to be like. Look, I'm not personally extremely fond of okra, but I have made gumbo and have had people really gush over how delicious it was, and that was a good feeling that I brought joy into their lives.
What's the most exotic ingredient you've cooked with? I feel like it's one of these shows on television, but what was the most exotic ingredient you've ever had to use?
Well, I have used...
Sorry to put you on the spot like that, because okra is that's pretty common. That's a common ingredient you may not like.
Okay, so it wasn't something that I cooked with, but I was once traveling and ate a scorpion.
Oh, and how did it taste?
And it tasted like fried shrimp.
Really?
Yeah.
I've seen that on those reality shows where they make people eat, insects and all, so it tastes like shrimp.
Yeah, I've eaten crickets. They actually taste a little like popcorn.
All right. I think you need therapy, Jay. No, but let's talk about your... I'm just kidding.
Neither of which was vegetarian. You understand that the Institute of Culinary Education has 2 tracks for culinary education. the main track is conventional, just like CIA. So it's meat and fish and dairy and eggs. And they teach all of the traditional competencies of roast, poach, fry, grill, saute. And they also teach those exact same competencies using plant-based foods for those people who want to build a career working in the vegetarian food world.
Now, that's growing in popularity. When I was in London, you wouldn't believe, just like in January, because I was there working on one of my films, you can't believe the number of vegan options. Anywhere you go, there is a vegan option. Can't say the same about New York or Florida, but in London, vegan is everywhere. Tell us about this plant-based. What's going on? Why that?
Okay,
direction?
so, we start out the same way as everyone else. You have to learn how to hold a knife. You have to learn how to use the equipment. You have to learn doneness of foods. But we also teach the students how to make seitan, which is a pure protein that comes from wheat flour, how to work with tempeh, which is a complete protein source that's made from soybeans and grain. And so, in a sense, the students from the plant-based program come out of the school with even more tools in their tool shed than your conventional cook who has never worked with seitan, who's never worked with tempeh, who doesn't really know what happens to tofu when you freeze it, how it gets that nice meaty texture that will now enable you to bring textures to people that they never had before.
Wow. You've written a book on that, vegetarian or vegan, haven't you?
I sure have. My very first cookbook was the Everything Vegetarian Cookbook.
That's it. That's when I remember that one. Is it still available?
It's still available. You can still get it on Amazon. Just look up the Everything Vegetarian Cookbook from Adams Media, and
Jay Weinstein is the author. Tell us about your other cookbooks.
So the Everything Vegetarian Cookbook sold pretty well, so the publisher called me up. This is after the 9/11 disaster, and when people were going back to cooking at home, there was a lot. I'm in New York, and in this town there was sort of a retrenching. People went back home, and there was a lot less dining out, and they wanted to learn how to cook comfort foods that were soothing. And so the publisher asked me to do a comfort food cookbook, and that's where A Cup of Comfort Cookbook came from. The Cup of Comfort Cookbook, it includes stories from people who have had difficult periods in their lives that they overcame with the help of foods that gave them either a sense of belonging to their family or gave them a sense of nourishment, like, chicken soup, if you will. So that was the next.
And that book is still available as well, Jay? Is that also available?
It sure is. Wow. Go online to Amazon and look up A Cup of Comfort Cookbook, and it's full of really wonderful stories as well as 300 recipes.
We have about a minute before we go to the break. Can you introduce us to the other two books by name so that people can check them out when they have a chance?
Sure. My book, The Ethical Gourmet, How to Enjoy Great Food That's Humanely Raised, Sustainable, Non-Endangered, and that Replenishes the Earth, is from Random House's Broadway Books. And I also am, my most recent book is The Everything Easy Vegetarian Cookbook, and that one is also still available.
And that I want to hear more about sustainable cooking practices and more about veganism and more about the special scholarship that ICE is offering. But we have to go to a break, so stay tuned, and we'll be back right after these commercials.
I get to speak with so many people thanks to this radio show, and I got to tell you, people are getting really frustrated with car dealers in the process of buying a car. And I get it, as it can be brutal with all the games, the back and forth, the haggling. Well, if you're tired of all of that, and if you're tired of dealing with dummies every time you're in the market for a vehicle, do I have a solution for you? The guys over at Route 22 Toyota in Hillside, New Jersey have it all figured out. Alex Cancella and his team are real people. They don't waste your time. They have the entire process streamlined, and it really is the smart way to buy. Alex has all sorts of deals going on this month, but it's simple. If you're in the market for a new or used Toyota, call 973-705-8905. You tell them Piscopo sent you. Again, 973-705-8905. Tell them I sent you, and then proceed to kick yourself for not knowing about Route 22 Toyota the last 3 times you needed a car. Am I right? Get over to Route 22 Toyota, right on Route 22 West in Hillside, New Jersey, or online at Route22Toyota.com. Unity Bank is dedicated to community-oriented banking and offers a full range of services, including business and personal accounts, business loans, and mortgages. Unity has locations throughout New Jersey and in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, expanding its footprint to 21 retail locations. If you're a small business owner, you know how frustrating it is to be a nobody at the big banks. You should be banking at a community bank like Unity. You can have a personal relationship with the president and CEO, my good friend Jim Hughes. Jim asks that you call him directly at 908-713-4306. 908-713-4306. Or send an email to james.hughes, Hughes, at unitybank.com, and Jim will get right back to you. You can't get this type of service at the big banks. Visit unitybank.com. FDIC insured, equal opportunity employer, and equal housing lender. Unity Bank, growing with you.
Dennis Prager here. Join me on an unforgettable cruise to the Caribbean this November. We'll cruise to the vibrant islands of Half Moon Cay, Curacao, Bonaire, Turks and Caicos, and much more. We'll be joined by special guest Sean McDowell, and we'll both be sharing insights into current events in a way I hope energizes and challenges you. Secure your spot before space runs out by calling 855-565-5519 or book online at PragerCruise.com.
We are moving now.
Electric bikes are everywhere. They are quiet and very fast. Teens ride them on the roads, in bike lanes, but also in places they should not be, like sidewalks and parks.
Look out!
When you ride, wear a helmet. Don't speed. Watch out for pedestrians and cars. New York State and your community have specific rules for electric bikes. Follow them. Go to trafficsafety.ny.gov for more info. A message brought to you by the Governor's Traffic Safety Committee.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
I don't know about you, but I'm sure getting hungry. And we've been talking with the great chef Jay Weinstein, who's been cooking and writing for 25 years. That makes him 26 of age. What a youngster. And Jay, during the break, I understand from Alex Garrett, who's our producer and engineer this show, that you know each other. How's that possible?
Isn't that amazing? That the very YMCA gym that I was working out at when I went back to school for journalism was the place where Alex and his dad were regulars, and I used to chat with them when they were there, and then we just reconnected on the subway train about a year ago. I saw Alex, and I said, I recognize you. Weren't you at the gym? And that was where, that gym, by the way, was where I got my first book contract. Met somebody right there, working out right there with me, who said, you ought to write a book.
Amazing.
Oh, my goodness. So
That's amazing.
all roads lead to that gym. Alex, what is Small World? So
I know, I call this Small World Sunday, Lucas and Jay and Mert.
So does Alex get free food, or is it like how?
Yes, Alex gets free food.
All right, I have to contact you off air about this. I'm intrigued now, Jay. So
it's a deal. You know, you were asking Lucas about sustainable food, and I wanted to just point out that it's easy for people to get discouraged in the world when you're bombarded with bad news. Everything's breaking down. The world's getting more polluted. There's less wilderness. There's less wildlife. And people think that everything is going downhill when actually we can play a part in fixing the broken systems. We can make the world a better place. And look, I'm not a complete vegetarian myself. I eat all kinds of things that are non-vegetarian. But I have made a movement in the direction of choosing foods that are replenishing to the earth, like things that don't use petrochemical pesticides or petrochemical fertilizers, and using organics, eating more plant-based foods. And this is contributing to fixing the broken food system.
Now, you were telling me off, when we were not on the air, but off air, about plastics and trying to avoid the use of plastics. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, you know, today I went to Central Park, and they were going to give me a glass of water, and I wasn't thirsty for a glass of water. And I saw that the glasses that they were putting out weren't glasses, they were disposable plastic. So I said, you know what? I'm not thirsty. I don't need it. You know, just to notice that a disposable is going to be brought to you, and to sort of predict that that is going to happen, so you can make a choice not to have it. That's one thing.
Not to contribute.
Yeah.
Right, but that still doesn't negate that plastic was used, but I hear exactly what you're saying. I want to ask you about the value of this plant-based food market in 1 second. But, Mert, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your cooking skills?
Well, I'm embarrassed, so it'd probably be like a 3, because all I can cook is spaghetti and hamburger helper, so that's all I can pretty much make. So listening to the chef, I'm thinking to myself, what would it take to get somebody like me to your level? But you can answer that another time. Answer Luke's question first.
That's perfect. Actually, Jay, I think you told me off air that there's even there's a scholarship, so maybe Mert can qualify. How does Mert apply for that scholarship? Tell us more about that.
Go to ice.edu, and you can find a list of scholarships that will enable you to get financial assistance to take a career program. Also, save yourself some money and just take a course in something that interests you. If you want to learn how to make better spaghetti, then take a class in Italian cooking that's available for everybody, just recreational classes. And you can learn how to make Italian breads, whatever.
They're offering scholarships for those individual classes, or just for the program?
They are not offering scholarships for those classes, but those classes are affordable enough that you can take a one-off.
Oh, in that case, Mert, I'll pay for a couple of classes if you want to go and learn a couple of things and improve your cooking skills. How about that?
Well, I'll take you up on that. You know, anytime I get something free, I'm there.
All right, Jay, so next time you come on the program, you're going to tell us about whether Mert passes or fails. Talk about the plant-based market. I was astounded when I read the numbers. Can you share with our listeners what we're talking about here monetarily?
Well, I can't give you dollars and cents, but it sure is true that the fastest-growing segment of the dietary world is plant-based. The fastest-growing segment of new food markets is plant-based. Meat is, I wouldn't exactly say it's in decline, but it is not growing at the same rate as vegetarianism and plant-based dining is.
So would you say at one of your establishments that you're noticing more people want vegetarian versus traditional meat products? Would you say that's true?
I would say that as little as 8 years ago, the school that I'm teaching at did not have any plant-based program, and now it has the leading plant-based program in the country.
Wow.
So
in 8 years.
There is a enormous growth in interest, and people are recognizing that there is delicious food that they don't even know about. Once you've learned how to cook, you can go into a farmer's market, find something that you've never seen before, and not be afraid to buy it, take it home, and cook it with confidence.
Yep, I buy those vegan burgers. They're actually quite good. And by the way, based on what I found, the global plant-based food market, Mert, is now valued at $43.77 billion as of last year, 2023, and it's projected to reach $85 billion by 2030. Lots of cash to go around, money to be made. So there's money in the plant-based market too, right, Jay?
And yes, there's huge money in it, and there's also a sense of making the world a better place. And when you were talking with your earlier guest about success, I really think that part of success is leaving the world a better place, and by contributing to something that is creating more wilderness for the wildlife, that is resulting in cleaner water and cleaner air for all of us to share, that also is success.
And I was also reading that people on vegan diets have increased something like 600%, according to the NIH. So the numbers, people are growing. Let me ask you a personal question. Are you anti-cow? A lot of people...
I am not anti-cow. I'm very pro-cow. I want them all to live.
But a lot of people don't share that. A lot of people want to get rid of cows. I won't name that congresswoman from New York who's anti-cow, but that I don't know. I'm not a meat eater myself. As I said, we had Christina from the Palm, Jay, from the Palm downtown, who called just a few minutes before your segment. I don't eat meat, but I respect the right of others to do so. So I don't get this anti-cow stuff. But back to ICE. So how long have you been teaching there?
I've been teaching at ICE for 8 years, since the school that I was teaching at initially in Chelsea moved down and joined forces with ICE. I was at the Natural Gourmet Institute. In 2018, we joined forces with ICE and became this stronger, better, faster entity.
Now, if you're out there listening...
I've been teaching for 15 years, but just for the last 6 or 8, I've been at ICE.
Amazing. And for those listeners out there who have had even the inclination, check out the website. It's ice.com. Repeat that for our listeners, please. Jay, what's the website?
That is ice.edu.
And check out Jay Weinstein and Jay's program. You'll find more about him there. And before we go, Jay, because we're running short of time, believe it or not, the segment's running short, run through your 4 cookbooks so people can check them out.
That's the Everything Vegetarian Cookbook, a Cup of Comfort Cookbook, the Ethical Gourmet, and the Everything Easy Vegetarian Cookbook.
Amen. Jay, much success, and here's to book number 5. You better get working on it so I can have you back.
Thank you very much, Lucas, and it was a real pleasure being here.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. So, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes show number 6. Guys, what do you think? We got about a minute left, only a minute left.
All right, well, I love this conversation. I just have one question for you, Lucas, since Mert's questioned your sports fortitude. What's his favorite football team? I want to know if you know that right now, because I do, and it's not my Giants, I'll tell you that much.
No, really? No, I have no idea. What does he like? Hurry up.
Cowboys.
Oh, my God. Listeners, people... If you know Mert, that was an easy giveaway. Mert loves cowboy hats. And
I'm from Texas, of course.
Oh, my God.
Of course.
Oh, no wonder you've been attacking me all day, all night. Oh, boy. I need a break. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. It's been so much fun. Tune in next week. We have more exciting guests and more controversial topics. Bye-bye now.
The preceding program is sponsored by Shake It Off Live, LLC.
Far